Well, I want to try something a little bit different to have for sale using these molds. I love these molds, and they're always very, very popular. Especially the little frog, he is a really popular mold. First of all, I'm going to mix my resin up, and I'm going to use a 1-to-1 resin for this and put my first layer in, because I'm going to do this in 2 layers. So let's get my gloves on. Don't forget, PPE is really important. I know there are YouTubers out there that don't use PPE, and that is their choice. I do think some of them are setting a bad example, but that is up to them. But please be safe. PPE minimum has to be a well-ventilated room, nitrile gloves, and a mask. I use a full face mask because my eyes are really, really sensitive to resin. So I'm going to mix my resin up for 4 minutes, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next with it. Well, this should all be mixed up now and ready, so I can take that out of my mixer. Had 4 minutes. Give my blades a bit of a wipe down and give them a clean up before I put them away. Then I'll take the effort out of mixing, especially if you're doing a lot in a day. So I had that on quite high, so it's mixed 1 or 2 little bubbles in it, and I want to get rid of those bubbles. So what I'm going to be using to do that is my Resin's degasser, that is the really high strength one, because this is a fairly thickish resin that I'm using. Now, never try and degas your resin in a silicone bowl, because they're not as smooth as these little plastic ones, and as a result it won't pull all the bubbles out. Also, don't be tempted to fill your glasses up or whatever you're using completely full, because what will happen then is when it takes the bubbles out of your resin, it'll bubble over and then make a mess in your pot, and you don't want that. So always about that full is plenty. And the great thing about this one is you can put more than one in at any one time, and also this one, it doesn't auto shut off after 5 minutes. If you've mixed a thick resin and you need it to go for longer, like I'm going to have this going for 10 minutes. I may shut it off after 7, but it won't shut itself off after 5, which is really, really useful. And you can get loads in there, and that will degas that beautiful. I know I've shown this in quite a few videos, but I do use it all the time. I love it. And you can see that that's building up now. It's at 69, and then it will get to 99. And it is a very good level. Gets rid of bubbles amazingly. Well, this is at about 6 minutes, so that should be enough. All I got to do is turn it off and release the little self-valve. And then my resin should be bubble free. If it's not, I can just pop it on for another couple of minutes. But no, it is completely bubble free. Look at that. You couldn't wish for any more bubble free resin. I have this on my desk all the time, and I use it all the time. So now what I want to do is pour this into my molds, and I don't want to fill the molds completely. I'm pouring it slowly because I don't want to trap any extra bubbles. I do want it in the frog's feet, a little bit there. I'm pouring it gently into those. Okay, and that should remain bubble free now. Hopefully there's no trapped bubbles in there, but if there is, we'll manage those out anyway. And the same for this one. And I want to leave a little bit of space in there for my final bit of my pour. And now I've got all my resin in there. What I'm going to do is leave this overnight to cure up before I do the next stage to it. I'll go over it with a long neck lighter just in case I've introduced any bubbles to that while I was pouring, and get rid of those bubbles. Other than that, that should be bubble free. If you've over poured a little bit, which I believe I probably have in this one, then I can just take a little bit out using a pipette, so I've got enough space for what I want to do next. So all the rest are fine, and we can leave these to cure up overnight. So these are all nice and cured, and as you can see, they're lovely and bubble free, which is brilliant. So what I'm going to do is get these ready to take the chameleon flakes and the chrome powder. They don't stick very well directly onto cured resin, so what I'm going to do first is paint over some of this adhesive glue, which is for gilding. And the reason I use this is it covers really well on resin. It doesn't kind of bunch up and you don't lose it, but also it stays sticky, dries clear, and then gives you a great finish afterwards when you've put your powders and all that on. And you can still burnish them. Now, I haven't done the toes of this, so where the toes are, you'll find the powders will stick to that no problem. And you'll know, like I said, you'll know when this is completely dry because it goes lovely and clear. So I'll finish off the other two, and then I'll show you how I'm going to apply the powders. Well, these are all nice and dry now and ready for me to put this on. The frog I'm going to do with the fuchsia chameleon flake. Look how well that sticks on there now, because that wouldn't stick on there before. When I put them on, what I always do is make sure that I burnish these flakes down. And what I mean by that is making sure I give them a bit of a polish almost, very lightly. You don't want to overdo it, because you don't want to scratch them off, but if you lay them down nice and flat, you get a much better result. Look, you can see how well they're burnished, and you've got that lovely shine there. And I prefer a brush with the flakes rather than a sponge. I prefer a sponge with the powders. So that one's done. This one I'm going to do slightly differently. So its head and its flippers and its tail, I'm going to do in chrome powder, and I'm going to be using the gold. Look how well that goes on as well. And you can really give that a great burnish on there with this glue, because that glue stays slightly sticky. And I find if you're going to use both powder and flakes, do the powder first, because that's easier to control than the flakes. And that way you're not getting the flakes where you don't want them. And that's lovely and burnished. And now what I'm going to do is use, and this is just a mix, to be honest, that I made a long time ago over where I had lots of different pots with different amounts of chameleon flakes in it. I just chucked them all in one pot and made a colour up, and I love it. See what I mean? How these move about a little bit more. So what's happening is that's going over the chrome powder. But it doesn't matter, because that chrome powder's not going to move or come off there. There we go. And this one I'm going to do in another powder, but I'm going to be using a chameleon powder for this. It's Galaxy one. And again, I'm going to use a little makeup sponge for this, just to pop that on. I've mixed my resin up now, and I've put some black pigment in it, because if you leave it clear, you don't get that really, really beautiful final finish. Put in a coloured pigment, and it doesn't always have to be black, but I do find with some of the darker colours that I've used on here, black works best. But you can use a paler colour if you want. I probably could have used a paler colour for this one, but black will work well. And I'm just slowly pouring this over. Now, this isn't going to be seen really anyway, because it's going to be the base. You're going to absolutely love these when they're demolded. So I'm going to go ahead, finish off these pours, and then we can let them cure overnight, and then I can demold them in the morning and show you what they're going to look like. I did a really great picture using a lip mold with this sort of technique a while back, and it came out brilliant. It's been very, very popular. And what I'll do is I'll link that video at the end of this one. Check it out, because there's some different techniques in there, and I think you'll really, really enjoy it. Now with these toes, what I find is the easiest way, let's move this over to here and this over to here. What I find the easiest way is, rather than trying to make a mess, is fill it up to there and then just bring your resin through into your toes like that with a tool like this, and then you'll get great results and you won't get any overpour. And then if you need to top that up, you can just top that up a little bit there, and that will automatically then flow into the rest of those toes. And then I'll do the same for the toes on this one as well. These are all lovely and cured now, but always remember when you're doing these ones, the little tooty wooties are quite thin, so make sure that's fully cured before you try and demold it, because if not, what they'll do is they'll get little bent toes. But these are all lovely and cured. So what I'm going to do is this one first. Oh, look how pretty that has come out. I love it. I love this technique because you've got that feel there and you've got that depth as well. I'm not sure how well my camera... I'm always saying this. I'm not sure how well my camera's picking things up. It's because I see things very different, I think, than most people do. Those chameleon flakes have come out beautiful. Oh, I really like that. Let's have a look at Mr. Frog. And like I said, you can do this with so many different molds as well. I did it with the lip molds and put them in a frame. That was recommended to me by one of my members, Hayes Hart, who, gosh, who creates some amazing stuff. Oh, look at that. Love how the frogs come out. I think that's my favourite so far. These little toes. And now we've got the lizard. Look at that. Beautiful. Really, really pretty. And it's nice and simple as well. So it's not like you're having to do anything really, really hard work or anything to get such a great result. Oh, I love them, but I love them all. What do you think in the comments? Let me know if you like them or if you've done something similar. And again, must point out, not a single bubble in that anywhere. Lovely and clear as that. Beautiful. Move that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check out the video I've got coming up on the lips as well. That's linked above here. But most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.